and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, anxiety mounts in the Gambia as Nigeria's warship heads for the country ahead of presidential inauguration. The Bring Back Our Girls campaigners demand probe of those who embezzled troops' funds. Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai gives frightening statistics on death toll from the killings across the state, puts number of deaths at 20,000 since 1980. And British Prime Minister Theresa May says Britain cannot remain part of the EU single market after Brexit.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo reveals plans by the government to sell Eurobonds worth $1 billion as World Economic Forum begins in Davos.
On sports news tonight, Manchester City midfielder Yaya Toure rejects £430,000 a week offer for Chinese club.
And from Abuja, I'm Ivy Clem. House of Representatives summoned service chiefs over killings in southern Kaduna.
We begin tonight with the political situation in the Gambia, where the Nigerian military says its newest warship, that's the NNS Unity, is sailing off the coast of Ghana after leaving from Lagos towards the Gambia. ECOWAS had promised to explore all options, including the use of military force, to ensure that President Yahya Jammeh steps down. The country's army is said to be no match for regional powers. The president has been promoting his loyalists in recent years, including Army Chief Uthman Bajide, to ranks beyond their competence. Senegal, on the other hand, is preparing ground troops ahead of Thursday's deadline. Meanwhile, barely 48 hours to its presidential inauguration, President Jammeh has declared a 90-day state of emergency. The president made the announcement on television, where he said any acts of disobedience to the laws of Gambia, incitement of violence, and acts intended to disturb public order have been banned under the state of emergency. Adama Barrow, a property developer, won the December 1st presidential election, but President Jammeh has refused to accept the election results. And the president today expressed deep sadness over the accidental bombing in Ran, a community in northern Borno State. In a statement, President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with the families of the dead and the Borno State government and wished the wounded fast recovery. The president also pledged the federal government's help for the Borno State government in attending to what he describes as this regrettable operational mistake. And after over 1,000 days of protest against the federal government over the return of the Chibok schoolgirls, an opportunity has been provided for the Bring Back Our Girls group to visit the Sambisa forest. The Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, and the leadership of the group, after a guided tour of the area, agreed that a lot is being done in trying to rescue the remaining girls. Again, the BBOG used the opportunity to call for the prosecution of those who embezzled funds meant for the purchase of arms for troops in the northeast. Now, Channel Television's crew was among the team that flew to the Sambisa forest.
A guided tour of the northeast by the federal government and some selected groups commenced with a standoff between the members of the Bring Back Our Girls advocacy group and the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, over travel arrangements for those invited. Members of the group insisted that they will only join the tour if the minister traveled on the same aircraft with them.
Well, you told us that we're going to be traveling alongside you, the Chief of Defense, and the Minister.
Yes, I said we are going to the same. We are going the same aircraft.
Well, you know, you cannot do that.
This was quickly resolved when the minister agreed to travel in the same aircraft with the members of the group.
Mr. Minister, you can join us.
I don't have any joining.
Please join us. That's
Excellent.
what we would like. Yes.
Arriving at the tactical operation base of Operation Lafia Dole in Yola, Adamawa State, the tour group joined the daily briefing of the operations.
This was captured on the 7th of January. So women and children were observed fleeing their doctors, apparently.
Done with the briefing, members of the group were taken on a sortie trip to Sambisa by day, on an intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance operation. On air, the Air Force surveillance team observed some movement, which they reported to base.
Actually see some people moving slowly,
prompting a fighter jet to make its way swiftly to the Sambisa forest. After 3 hours of surveillance, the flight returns to base. The tour team also embarked on a night sortie. This also lasted for over 3 hours. The Bring Back Our Girls team and the minister shared their assessment of the tour.
For our military to be equipped, it just helped us validate our demand that no military disempowered can win a war. It's impossible. And so we saw the analysis of the equipping of our military. For example, to imagine that the vast land of Sambisa general area only once upon a time had just 2 fighter jets really out there against the enemy. 2 and 9 can be part of the reason that the ISR visit was showing us less activity of the enemies. That's reassuring that equipping our military has impact beyond the ordinary. What does that suggest? We as a movement have been very upset, and we've demanded prosecution of all those who in any way are indicted for misappropriation of budgetary resources for the prosecution of the terrorism war.
We've achieved what we came out to achieve. We brought in the media, both local and international, to come and see what you do and how you do it.
As the tour team departs, these air assets are gearing up for another day of intelligence, surveillance, and maybe rescue operations. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Well, the House of Representatives is to investigate why the girls' secondary school Chibok, Borno State, has not been reconstructed, despite 500 million naira being earmarked for the project in the 2016 budget. This resolution followed a motion sponsored by Honorable Raphael Ibokwe, who informed the House that the former Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, had flagged off the reconstruction project. Lawmakers wondered if the funds had been diverted and called for a proper investigation to be done. The House also resolved that all schools destroyed in the course of fighting insurgency should be reconstructed.
The House notes that 1,600 million naira was budgeted by the federal government in the 2015 budget for the Save School initiative. The House is aware that of the said sum, the federal government earmarked the sum of 500 million naira for the reconstruction of the girls' secondary school, Chibok, in Borno State, northeast of Nigeria. The House is also aware that the reconstruction work was flagged off by the then Minister of Finance, Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. The House is concerned that the Governor of Borno State, Alhaji Kashim Shettima, in one of his recent visits to Chibok, alerted the world that the school has not been reconstructed, and indicating that the funds approved for the reconstruction work may have been diverted. worried that there has been no official clarification from the Ministry of Finance or the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation over the status of the funds earmarked for the project.
Kaduna State in Nigeria's northwest has witnessed its fair share of ethnic violence over the years, with more than 20,000 people killed in several crises dating back to 1980. The revelation of the figure is coming from the state governor, Nasir El-Rufai, who is given the assurance that all those responsible will be brought to book. In this next report, our correspondent Oreolua Shonibare looks at the history of violence that's trailed Kaduna State.
The 2006 census pegged the population of Kaduna State at just above 6 million, third behind Lagos and Kano. So with over 50 ethnic groups, it would be expected that the people would explore the road of tolerance towards one another. But that appeared not to be, as the state has for a long time been plagued with violence. The history of these hostilities and what the causes are not so clear. But some records have it that religion, land, resources, and politics are to blame. Many other violent clashes have claimed more lives, resulting in countless protests, petitions, calls for dialogue and intervention from the authorities.
These problems of killing, clashes, is not only limited to Kaduna State. It is something that is engulfing in the country. So we want to try to make sure that peace reigns in Nigeria.
All efforts appear not to have worked because the governor, Nasir El-Rufai, released a startling estimate of casualties from the state since 1980.
We are doing the death toll. We are going through all the reports of the commissions of inquiry from 1980. We will soon publish a factual narrative of what has happened in Kaduna State. But by our estimates, between 10 and 20,000 people have been killed in Kaduna State in this kind of cycles of violence from 1980.
The figure may be disputed because many cases of mass killings and burials were alleged to have been reported but never brought to light. There is also the question of what is being done by the leaders to put a stop to this. Whatever it is, must be a permanent solution. Oreolua Shonibare, Channels Television News.
And in a bid to understand the true security situation in southern Kaduna in view of the recent attacks in the area, the House of Representatives has resolved to meet with all security chiefs in the country. This followed a motion by Honorable Gideon Gwani in what he called the violent attacks on the people of Kaura Federal Constituency of southern Kaduna by unknown gunmen. Lawmakers observe that a large number of people are said to have lost their lives in continued attacks, despite the presence of officials of the armed forces.